Hello! In this video, you are going to study expressing comparisons, contrast, and consequence as we continue to examine youth rights. To introduce the topic, let me ask you this question. Have you ever worked for a salary? Yes or no? If you have not, think about a friend who has worked for a salary, all right? Do you think that they have paid you or your friend fairly? That they have paid them what they deserve? All right, think about it for a moment, and that is a preparation for reading the next text. Read the following text about youth rights. Let's read it together. Many conflicts can be found in the labor field, especially related to age. Right? Conflicts related to age in the labor field, in the work field. Young people are harmed, means they suffer, daily by it, by the conflicts that we can find in the labor field, by the labor field. Although their aspirations to start a formal day job is a job that you work during the day. It is a permanent, normal job, let's say. Although their aspirations to start a formal day job are high, many times working conditions are not the most favorable, right? In order to solve this problem, the International Labour Organization, ILO, has developed extensive standards. Standards are guidelines, okay, recommendations, let's say, exclusively for youth so that young people can work with the guarantee of healthy working conditions with remuneration which is as commensurate as possible with the work they do. What that means is that when they work, they pay them what they need to earn, what is fair for them. All right? Other benefits are that violations of the benefits of this International Labour Organization and their standards. Other benefits are that violations such as salaries below the national minimum wage, unpaid internships, and consistently high youth unemployment rates do not continue to occur, so that people can work, that they're not unemployed, especially young people. Good. Let's make sure that we understand the basic concepts in this text before we continue. I have these questions for you. Which are some common conflicts found in the labor field? Conflicts with age, related to age. What does the International Labour Organization, or ILO, do? What do? They have developed some standards to protect the youth. Yeah, the young people. Yeah. In the text that we have read, we may see that there are some expressions that imply some comparisons, contrast, and consequence. Let me show you some examples. I extracted this sentence that expresses comparison. Look, remuneration which is as commensurate as possible. Remuneration which is as commensurate as possible. There is a comparison there because we are making it equal to what we are comparing it to, as commensurate as possible, that it is paid, that somebody is paid in the same conditions as other people. That is what happens when we are saying something simpler like, my sister is as tall as me. So as is is before and after an adjective that is expressing how tall we are. And if we are the same height, we say as. All right? We could also say much more than or just more than. All right? We could say rather than, or we could say fewer than or less than. Fewer, we use it for count nouns, for countable nouns, things that we can count, like there are fewer people here. Or less than, things that we can't count, like cold. Here it is less cold than yesterday, for example. Or farther than or further than. The difference is that farther refers to distance. For example, you can walk farther if you wear good shoes, or if you announce this through social media, your proposal would reach a further population, or will go further. It means that it is more abstract than farther. All right, good. Next, we have some expressions in the text to express contrast. For example, I extracted this from the text. Although their aspirations to start a formal day job are high, many times working conditions are not the most favorable. So we have some contrast here. The aspirations of young people to start a formal day job are good, but the working conditions are not good. So there is contrast there. We can express contrast with some other expressions such as while their aspirations to start a formal job. Or we could say on the contrary, or we could say but or however, which you know very well. So I would like for you to practice the expressions that are new to you, especially so that your English can improve every day. And in the text, there is one example of an expression of consequence. The ILO has developed extensive standards so that young people can work in healthy working conditions. So they have developed standards, and what is the consequence? That the young people can work in healthy working conditions. All right? So that is the consequence of what they have done before. And that consequence can be expressed also with these expressions. In order to, for example, the ILO has worked in order for young people to have better conditions, or they have worked very hard. Therefore, young people can have better conditions. Or we could say they have worked very hard. That's why young people can have, etc. Consequently, also expresses consequence, of course. All right? Those are expressions that we can use to express those relationships. I have some practice for you so that you can apply what you have learned about expressing those relationships. And it's this. Write 5 sentences inspired by the following text. The text is going to make you think, and it's going to inspire some things in you, and you are going to express those using the expressions. I keep repeating express and expressions. Describe what you're thinking using the expressions in the word bank. And the word bank is this. You're going to have as, which expresses a comparison of equality, although and while, which express contrast, and so that and in order to, which express consequence. So let's read together what the text that is going to inspire you is. It says, young workers tend to be overrepresented. That means that there are many young workers in the informal economy, not the economy in which there is a formal job, but informal economy like people working on the streets or helping other people without a formal employment relationship. These workers will most likely engage in casual labor, yes, therefore, consequence, facing very poor working conditions which can eventually lead to extreme situations like poverty. So poverty is the ultimate consequence of people not working under good, healthy conditions. Since the employee-employer relationship is substantially weaker, yes, there are no contracts, for example, the company often commits violations such as paying a low salary, that's so bad, having lack of protection, so unsafe conditions, dismissal without notice, or compensation means that they fire the person without letting them know or without paying them for what the person is going to lack because the person was fired. Unsafe working conditions, yes, and lack of social security benefits. What are those benefits? Such as pensions, sickness benefits, if you're sick, that they pay you anyway, and health insurance. which is why young workers participate less in social security schemes than adults. That is not good. So young people don't have access to social security because they don't have a strong employee-employer relationship. They don't have a contract that guarantees that they have those rights. All right, so that is the text that is going to inspire you to write some 5 sentences using the expressions in the word bank. So please think about that for a moment, read it again if you need to, and I will see you in a moment when you have completed the activity. All right, thank you very much because you paused the video and completed the activity. I trust that. And let me show you some sample answers that a girl wrote. All right, she wrote, young workers' conditions are not as strong as those of older people. Yes, it is true. Comparison is not as strong. Oh, it's saying that it is not as, it's not equal, it's not as strong as. That's very good, very smart. Although, that's contrast, although young people should have the same rights as adults, they usually face poor working conditions. Yes, contrast there. Another contrast. While young workers contribute to the workforce of a nation, they often suffer rights violations by their employers. Yes, there's contrast there. They contribute, but they suffer. Young people should know their work rights before getting a job so that they can demand fair labor conditions. Yes, I love that. If you know your rights, you can demand that they treat you fairly. That's very good. Next, in order to have more participation in the social security schemes, young workers must pursue a stronger employee-employer relationship with their employers. Yes, for example, that they demand a contract that forces the employer to affiliate the young worker in the social security system of their country. This is very good. I like these sentences that were inspired by the text very much. All right, I am going to pause my video so that you can practice the pronunciation with the native speaker. Okay, listen and practice after her.
Young workers' conditions are not as strong as those of older people. Although young people should have the same rights as adults, they usually face poor working conditions. While young workers contribute to the workforce of a nation, they often suffer rights violations by their employers. Young people should know their work rights before getting a job so that they can demand fair labor conditions. In order to have more participation in the social security schemes, young workers must pursue a stronger employee-employer relationship with their employers.
All right, thank you very much for having practiced your pronunciation. And let me remind you that in this lesson we have studied expressions for comparisons, contrast, and consequence. That you will gonna use those to make your English much more accurate. All right. Thank you very much for your hard work, and I will see you in the next video.